This is Ron Pramschafer, and welcome to Publishing Basics Radio, where weekly we help you navigate the self-publishing minefield. Publishing Basics Radio is sponsored by selfpublishing.com, the Internet's only self-publishing superstore. Think you're ready to publish a book? Try selfpublishing.com. Now on with the program. This is the first of a series of peer-to-peer marketing tips for the independent publisher. Our guest today is Chika Onyeani, the author of Capitalist Nigger. Chika, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ron, for inviting me.
Now, the old saying goes, controversy sells. And it's hard to imagine anything more controversial than the title of your book.
Well, the name, Capitalist Nigger, as I said in the book, I addressed that issue because people say, why would you use such a word that is so offensive to your race, to the black people? And in the book, I said that for a long time that white people have used the word nigger to denigrate black people, and every time a white person says the word, we run to the barricades. We make all kinds of noises and all that. I mean, I understand the kind of anguish that my people feel about the word, but by always protesting when somebody does that, as I said in the book, we are giving comfort to those who say it, and making them feel more superior to us. And we feel inferior. And the reason for my using that word is to make it irrelevant as it applies to our people, for us not to be really paying too much attention to it. Because, as I said, the first sentence I said in Capitalist Nigger is that in Africa we have a proverb which says, "It is not what you call me, but what I answer to that matters most."
Okay. See, I read the book, and the book is really good. And it seems like, you could have used something like Wake Up Africa. You could have used something a little softer, because the words inside the book don't seem nearly as controversial as the title itself. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, you had to know you were going to, have a lot of people go crazy with that title.
Well, of course, I know that it will offend a lot of people. My wife is an African-American. And initially, she thought the book was disparaging black people, but then she found that it was a book meant for the black race as a whole. It wasn't just something for African Americans or Caribbeans or Africans in the continent. It's a book for everybody. So for every black person and every white person who wants to understand the problem within the black race.
Okay, because as a white person, when I first picked it up, I wanted to crawl under the desk, because we've got, I was afraid, if I get seen with it, people are going to see me with a hood on or something, So, the book is, when I read it, it's like, okay, the book is for everyone. Mm. The one thing about controversy is, it's one thing to have a controversial book. The other thing is to have skin thick enough to be able to stand up to the controversy. Mm-hmm. And I did, Google searching around, under your name and under the book's name and everything. And you seem to hold your own. You had to, this book's been out for a couple of years now, mm-hmm. right? And you seem to hold up. You tell your end, pretty well.
Well, I believe very much in what I have written in the book. Of course, there are people who feel that I have said a lot of bad things about black people. Mm-hmm. But my thing in this, as I have written in many other places, in the 21st century, black people have to be totally and brutally frank with themselves. We have to be brutally frank with ourselves, because if we are not, in the year 2050, in the year 3000, we are still going to be making the same excuses. We are going to be talking about why the black man is still where he is. It is because of slavery. We are still going to be talking about the black man is still where he is because of colonialism and or racism. And as I said, all those things, colonialism, a lot of countries, suffered colonialism. Mm-hmm. Some people suffered slavery, although on the black part, it was, slavery was more, on the black race than other people. But racism, as I have always said, is not something that we have to dwell too much, because no matter how you legislate racism, it's never going to go away. It's not something you can legislate, because there are people who just going to practice it no matter what. So if you spend all your time thinking about, this and that, you are never going to make progress. And our people, black people, we are making too many excuses. We have a victim mentality. And as I said, it is something that the book addresses, that we have to get out of those things. We have to stop making excuses for our failures.
It's funny now, when I talked to you earlier, I said, wow, then that, you sound pretty conservative. And you came back and said just kind of flatly no, that you weren't conservative. So how would you describe yourself politically?
Politically, I consider myself an Africanist. Mm-hmm. Because, as I said, the problem of black people should not be labeled. Whether you are considered a conservative or progressive or socialist or whatever name you want to adopt, when you look at what is happening within the black race, it is something that we all have to come together and say, how do we begin to solve the problem of the black man or woman being always on the lowest economic totem pole? Okay.
Like with the talk show, and I say I'm not sure how many shows you've done. Say it's like a Hannity and Combs or one of them. I mean, they're going to have you on this side. Who would they put on the other side to rebut what you're saying? Like an Alan Keyes kind of Republican or an Al Sharpton type Democrat? Or
I believe that because of what I'm saying, they might have somebody like Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson to rebut what I'm saying. That is the kind of people they will bring, although I may tend to agree with them on certain areas. But basically, I prefer to say that we have not done enough for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We have not looked inward enough within ourselves. That a lot of the things, for instance, some years ago, I don't know whether you remember it, Jesse Jackson was supposed to have made a statement that if he was on the street at 12 midnight and he saw a black person coming, he would take the other side of the road. He would cross to the other side. Of course, people criticized him. And I said to myself, but he eventually said, he was misquoted. But that is the truth. We have to accept the fact that if you live in a black neighborhood, it is not a white man who is going to come and rob you or shoot you. It's going to be a black person. My house broken into, my cars, until we installed all these very expensive things around my house. The car broken into, somebody looking for change, $5 change. Mm-hmm. And then I have to take the car to a white repair person, pay him $500 to fix my car for somebody looking for $5. You understand?
Yeah.
And, you have to say it. It is not a white person who is doing that. It is a black person. We have to realize that. And we have to, being brutally frank, is what we as black people need.
Okay, now being brutally frank, how many copies of your book have you sold so far? Over 20,000?
Oh, yeah, it's over 20,000.
I mean, the reason for this show, is a couple of purposes, but to really share tips, that there's real people that publish independently or self-publish that actually do sell large numbers. Now, who's been your primary, these first batch of books that you've sold, who's been the primary audience?
Well, it has been African Americans and some Africans. The book has sold very well in Southern Africa as well.
Because you in the beginning, you said the book was for the general market, and I read it. It was a very interesting book.
Unfortunately, we have not broken into the white market. Not too many people have really seen the book because we have not gone out to do a lot of promotion for the book.
Okay, so if you haven't promoted, and again, this is like the secret here. You've sold this many books. You say you haven't really gone out and promoted it. I do a Google search. You're all over the Internet. You're absolutely all over the Internet with discussions and discussion groups and all, talking good and bad about you.
Yeah.
based on your experience, okay, what would be your, say, number one tip you could share with everybody here with how to sell books?
Well, the first thing we said from the beginning is to have a good title.
Mm-hmm.
That is, of course, the first thing you have to do, to have a good title. There are people who have told me, oh, if you do not have the Nigger in the book, you would have sold hundreds of thousands of books.
Or you would have sold 2,000 books. I mean, that was what I was trying to get at earlier. You know, it's like the controversy. You know, and I know that if it would have just said "Wake Up Africa" versus Capitalist Nigger, I mean, your hand's going to go down and pick it up just out of curiosity more than anything else.
Yeah. The first thing you have to do, get a good title.
Get a good title.
Yes.
You were saying you'd like to get it more widespread into the white marketplace, and I guarantee it's not going to go in as Capitalist Nigger. You know, I mean, would you consider another title for another market? I mean,
I remember my bank manager, who was Chinese, and in New York. When the book came out, she said to me, "How could you have this title and you can say that, and I can't say it?" I said, well, if you say it, I will sue you because you are white.
Oh, Chika. Well, it's been really good having you on the show today. Okay, and hopefully we'll get you back on when you sell the next 20, 30, 40,000. Give us a couple more tips.
I will.
Okay, take care now. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
For Publishing Basics Radio and selfpublishing.com, this is Ron Pramshafer. See you next week.